So about half a year ago, one of my close friends had the opportunity to come up on this very stage and give an announcement during all-school meeting. That's like our assembly during Mondays and Thursdays. And I thought the announcement went pretty well. You know, he didn't stutter at all. He didn't mumble. He gave a pretty good, clear announcement, so I didn't think much of it. But later on in the dorm, he came up to me and he said, "Noboru, that was an uncomfortable experience." He compared it to this scene from the movie Oppenheimer, which I can't really show because of like copyright issues. It's also a little too gory. But it's a scene. It's the scene of a press conference, and Oppenheimer's getting interviewed when suddenly everyone just goes silent and they begin to slowly melt. Imagine that. Getting up on a stage and just seeing everyone go silent, their stares piercing into your soul and feeling like everybody's melting. He told me that this moment had made him really uncomfortable, and that the entire experience had really just not been something that he enjoyed, and that he thought that public speaking just might not be for him. And that's what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to convince you that public speaking is the most important skill that you have never been taught. Why is it? In this age of media and information, delivery is everything. Keep in mind, most people get most of their information through TikToks, where all you can see is the speech that someone gives, or whatever they say. You can't really see the work that someone puts behind, like some sort of work of art, or some sort of speech, or some sort of campaign. All you can see is the delivery. That's why, not just I, but Bobby Carlton of the Forbes Business Council believes that public speaking is the most important skill to get that you can get comfortable with to advance your career. Don't just take it. But if you're not still convinced, let me tell you a tale of two Steves. Whoever knows who that person is, raise your hand. All right, we all know this. That's Steve Jobs. Whoever knows who that person is, raise your hand. See, that's a lot less people. That right there is Steve Wozniak. And he and Steve Jobs together developed Apple computers pretty much in equal proportions. Now, Steve Wozniak was a super accomplished man. I'm so sure he died really happy. You know, great, very accomplished inventor. However, Steve Jobs died a lot more famous, with a lot more recognition, and with a lot more money. That is because he was the presenter. Apple Computers was Wozniak's software. It was his hardware. He had most, like in the inventing phase, he had a lot more, you could say he had a lot more influence in that part. But because Steve Jobs was the one who got up here and said, "I have one more thing," we all credit him for the invention of Apple Computers. Now what I'm trying to convey to you is that if you want credit for your work, which I'm pretty sure all of us do, or most of us do, it is really important that you get good at presenting that work in front of other people. Think about it. I could have had someone else write this entire talk for me, do all my hard work, write all my points, help me rehearse, do pretty much all the heavy lifting, but because I'm the one here delivering it right now, you will give me all the credit. You will not see that person behind the scenes. I didn't, but I could have. I very well could have. Which is why, if you want to exploit your full potential, it is in both your academic, your professional, your personal lives, it is so important that you get comfortable with the ability to present information to a lot of people. More importantly, though, you can never let fear of failure control and deter you. What I really want you to take away from this talk is that if you let fear of failure control you, we may all be scared of failure. That's a fact. That's inevitable. That's being human. But if you let it stop you from taking action and achieving your dreams and your goals, then you will truly never get ahead in life. And that sounds really rough, but it's true. So I want you to leave this talk with three things. Firstly, we're going to go over some tips to improve your public speaking. Get up on the stage and say whatever the H-double hockey sticks you want. I want you to leave with some life lessons on mentality from a 17-year-old, which is pretty ironic. And thirdly, I'm going to give you an overview of the growth mindset. So let's go. My first public speaking tip for you is to not be a perfectionist. We've all been there. You're giving a presentation for your class, and you're reading out the script that you spent 3 weeks writing and 5 weeks rehearsing. And suddenly you forget one word. It could be a but, an and, whatever. And suddenly you go back, you correct yourself. You start stuttering, you start mumbling. And now you've forgotten what you have to say because you're thinking more about the fact that you're tripping up than about what you actually have to say next. You're thinking more about your failure than about your potential success. At this point, the whole presentation is ruined. Don't do that. It's much more, you have to detach yourself from the need to give a perfect talk, and you need to prioritize flowing, because it's so much more important to give a generally good talk than a perfect talk. There's no such thing as a perfect talk. Nobody in the audience knows what you have to say. Nobody in the audience has your script. You're the only one who knows what you supposedly have to say. So it's so much more important to not focus on the little details and to focus on speaking about what you know you want to say. For example, if I wanted to tell you a recipe for a pizza that I read on the internet, right? And I tried to tell you the recipe word for word as I read it on the internet, and I corrected myself every time I made a mistake, I would probably spend like 30 minutes giving you this recipe, because I'd keep tripping up, I'd keep making mistakes, and you would probably just not get the general idea. And by the end, you'd probably be like, what was I supposed to do for the first step? However, if I only gave you the general details, the ingredients, the procedure, and I just gave you a general idea of what I want to tell you, then you'd probably get a much more clear idea of what I want to say. Another great way to think about this is through method acting. Now, method acting is a method of acting, pioneered by actors like Al Pacino. That's Al right there. Great actor. Great actor. Seriously, go watch his films. He's great. Now, method acting is the method through which an actor becomes their character. So rather than just seeing a character as like a set of pre-engineered lines that you have to deliver to an audience, you mix your own life experiences with those of the character. Essentially, you become the person that you want to portray. That makes it so much easier to show that character's emotion, because they're pretty much your own. That's what you should do every time you get on a stage. You need to convince yourself of what you want to say before you try to convince others. You need to internalize the message that you want to deliver. Because if you learn what you want to say and you're just speaking from knowledge, then you're just talking about something that you already know about. And what could be easier than that? Now, granted, for this you need to know what you're talking about. If you don't, you're pretty much cooked. But it's such a great way to be able to deliver more effective talks than to try to be perfect every single time. The second public speaking tip that I can give you is that the podium is your armor, not your burden. Now listen, a lot of people approach public speaking with the wrong mentality. They think, oh man, I have to give a presentation in front of all these people, or I have to present to the board. No, you get to do that. What you need to understand is that public speaking is a one-way ticket to broadcast your opinions to the general public. This has two advantages. Number one, you don't really need to change what you want to say to cater to any one person's opinion. You kind of just say whatever you want to say, as I'm doing right now, and hope that it sticks to one or two people. It's true. That's all you got to do. The second thing, oh God, Jesus. Or the second thing that's great about public speaking is that nobody can get up and interrupt you, right? If one of you got up right now and just corrected me, said, no, that's not true, actually, I think you're wrong, you'd probably get escorted out of the room. So this is my opportunity to say whatever I want to say, however I want to say it, and you just have to listen, which is a great opportunity. So use it to your advantage. Don't run away from it. Look for opportunities to be better. But of course, it's really intimidating. You're putting yourself out there. It's pretty much like putting your own opinions, your soul out there. And if people don't like it, it's like they're telling you that they don't like you. So it is really intimidating. A tip that I can give you is that competition helps. So a lot of you may know this, some of you may not, but I'm actually a debater. Like, I've competitively debated for 5 or 6 years. I'm about to start a debate team at this school. I am doing it. But that means that I started when I was like 11 years old, man. Which means that I was locking myself in a random classroom at a random high school that I'd never been to for 2 hours with like 18-year-olds that were a lot more experienced than me, and just screaming at them for hours on end and getting screamed at. So obviously, that was like a super, super intimidating experience for me. And I used to approach speeches like, oh God, I really am cooked. Like, I really thought, I'm going to do terribly, and when I do terribly, everybody's going to hate me for it, and it's going to be bad. So I used to be afraid of getting on up there. But I have this friend. He was about the same age as me, about the same skill level, and we competed quite a bit. And it was this competition that led me to think about speeches as an opportunity to prove that I was better than him, and to become better than him. And when I did that, I started looking for more opportunities to get up on a stage, give more speeches, debate more, which by itself made me a better speaker. But I also took those opportunities with a better mentality, because I started seeing my failures and my challenges as just opportunities to learn. And that's what's really important. Which brings me to my third point, probably my most important point, is to seek failure. And everyone who's gone to the gym knows that the only way to grow is by going to failure. Now the best way that I can explain this is by this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. There's a picture of Bruce Lee there. I don't think Bruce Lee actually said that quote, but he's just really cool. So I picked the one that had Bruce Lee on it. But it's, practice like you've never won and perform like you've never lost. And that's exactly what you gotta do. Right before I got on stage right now, I asked myself two things. Number one, I asked myself, what would happen if I screwed up every single step of the way? I mean, I got up here, and as I was walking up here, I tripped up. Then I got up here, I started stumbling, I forgot what I had to say. The slides were not really up there, they weren't working, and you all booed me off the stage. I asked myself, what now? The world is still turning, I'm still alive and breathing, and there's another chance. I live to fight another day. The second thing that I asked myself is, what if everything goes right? What if I have all of you in the palm of my hand, and your sole purpose in life is to listen to me talk? What if I leave and everybody talks about my speech for ages, to their children and further generations to come? Now, is either one of these scenarios likely? Probably not. However, now that I've done this, I can go achieve the latter vision, my dream, while not being afraid of any failure that I can make along the way, because whatever happens, happens, man. There's nothing wrong with failing. Everyone, even the most experienced people, can fail. Keep in mind, even like NFL receivers are going to fumble the ball sometimes. But that doesn't mean that they're not NFL receivers. Just because you perform badly once doesn't mean that you're not as good as you are. It doesn't have to determine the trajectory of your life, but it can. It can improve it. If you take failure in stride, if you take every time that you slip up, every mistake that you make as an opportunity to learn, you can become so much better. And of course, we all know this is true. We've all heard this a million times, but you really have to internalize this. You really have to go out there and seek failure. And you have to do this understanding that while failure is scary, you will fail. You will be judged, you will be humiliated, and you will screw up, and that's okay, because that's being human. It's okay to lose, but it's not okay to be so afraid to lose that you don't get up. Oh, shoot. There we go. Now, what I've given you, it's super applicable to public speaking, but if you only apply it to public speaking, it's actually kind of a waste, because you're only going to get so many chances to get on a stage and give a speech, right? That's not really the meaning of life. However, what I've pretty much given you is an overview of the growth mindset. The growth mindset is a mentality that assumes that you're a malleable person, that assumes that you're a work in progress, and that assumes and that takes challenges and defeats in stride and as opportunities to grow. The growth mindset is super valuable, not just on the stage, but in the classroom or on the field. Now everybody and their mother has heard of the growth mindset, right? We've all been taught this in class. We've all read the Facebook posts about it, and none of us really know why it's so important. And I'm going to give you some stats about why it's so important in a second. But let me tell you, the real reason why the growth mindset is so important is that it makes you undefeatable. Because no matter what happens, as long as you're still breathing, and as long as you still have your limbs to do stuff, right? Even if you fail, even if you screw up, you can always get back up. Which means not even the worst of defeats can ever put you down. And that is the greatest weapon. I don't know what happened there. And that is the greatest weapon that anyone can have in life. Now, here's some studies for you to actually believe me, and not just word of mouth from a senior in high school. So these are some stats that I got from the Student Experience Research Network, right? And this is a study that covered 10th graders taking a nationwide achievement test in Chile. Now, as you can see there, and as you can see here, Students that had a growth mindset were 3 times likelier to earn a top 20% score on the exam than students with a fixed mindset. And students with a fixed mindset were a lot likelier than students with a growth mindset to earn a bottom 20% score. And you might say that means nothing, because I don't know these kids. I don't know if they're like the kids with the growth mindset just had a better education. You don't control for other variables for all my scientists out there. Well, here's a different study that I think is a lot better. This one covered 7th graders and their math grades throughout middle school. Now, both sets of these 7th graders received the study skills necessary to do well in math throughout middle school, right? That was the control variable. They had similar skills training. However, only one group of 7th graders, the red line obviously, or I wouldn't be showing this graph, received the growth mindset program. And as you can see, those kids did a lot better and avoided the typical decline in math grades throughout middle school that I know that I experienced. Now, what I'm trying to convey to you here, and what I want you to leave with from this talk, is that the growth mindset is really, really, really important, right? I want you to, number one, feel empowered to get up on a stage and talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about, especially because now you know these tips. You can think of method acting. You can think of the what if I lose, what if I win scenario, right? You can think of all these things. But I also, and more importantly, want you to understand that in anything that you do, yeah, you, not like the general audience, anything that you do, fear of failure is your biggest enemy. Never let it win. This, I found a pretty fitting quote, because we go to a hockey school. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. That's Wayne Gretzky and, more importantly, Michael Scott from The Office. And I think it's probably one of the best quotes I've ever heard, because it's true. No matter what you do, not trying is always worse than trying and failing. You can always get back up if you fail, but not trying will always leave you wondering, what if? And of course, you'll never get better from not trying. So after this talk, you're going to feel empowered. But what I want you to do is not just sit there and leave with a smile on your face, like, oh, that was so wholesome, what a great talk. Yeah, no. I want you to go out there and do that thing you've been meaning to do. Go text that person. Go take that course. Go do that thing. Just go do it. Don't just sit there and nod your heads. Actually go do it the second you leave this place. Because no matter who you are, where you come from, you can always strap up and climb that mountain.